describing in this chapter the different standards of behavior that are quite legitimate at different levels of development for everybody. Good morning, Archana ji.
Good morning, Gangadhar. Good morning, everybody.
So, page 204, the higher ethical law. That's a third level of the human behavior. That the first law is based on ego and needs and wants, and that's quite okay because that's how it is. That at that level, at the lowest level, you have to satisfy your needs, and it is ego based. That's fine at that level. Then the second level, the ego can become sometimes too much, so the society steps in and lays down rules and laws, and you have to obey them. Nobody obeys, not everybody at least. Many people don't obey the social laws. But then the third one is what he's discussing now, the higher ethical law. In the second one, the society is imposing law on you. In the third one that we are reading now, the individual himself, from his own inner being, he feels that there are some things that he can't do. So he puts do's and don'ts. That's the ethical law, moral law. So let's start reading. Today is Pallavi's Tuesday, her monopoly. So if she is ready, she can start reading.
Yes, Gangadhar.
Yeah, okay. The higher ethical law.
The higher ethical law is discovered by the individual in his mind and extended to the race. The supreme law also must be discovered by the individual in his spirit. Then only through a spiritual influence and not by the mental idea can it be extended to others. A moral law can be imposed as a rule or an ideal on numbers of men who have not attained that level of consciousness or that fineness of mind and will and psychic sense in which it can become a reality to them and a living force. As an ideal, it can be revered without any need of practice. As a rule, it can be observed in its outsides, even if the inner sense is missed altogether. The supramental and spiritual life cannot be mechanized in this way. It cannot be turned into a mental ideal or an external rule. It has its own great lines, but these must be made real, must be the workings of an active power felt in the individual's consciousness and the transcriptions of an eternal truth, powerful to transform mind, life, and body. And because it is thus of the supramental consciousness and the spiritual life is the sole force that can lead to collective perfection in earth's highest creatures. Only by our coming into constant touch with the divine consciousness and in
Your
truth
internet
can
is-
some dynamic absolute take up our earth existence.
Well, this connection is not good, I think.
Yeah, your connection is.
Oh, okay.
Voice is going away.
Oh,
Pallu,
can somebody else read then? Yes,
Yeah.
Rangadhar.
no, your internet is dancing up and down, up
Oh,
and down.
so can somebody else read?
No, we have finished
This is
the
last
para.
sentence.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have finished the para.
Only by our coming into constant touch with the divine consciousness and its absolute truth can some form of the conscious divine, the dynamic absolute, take up our earth existence and transform its strife, stumbling, sufferings, and falsities into an image of the supreme light, power, and ananda.
So, very interesting para. We'll look at exactly what he's saying. He is comparing the ethical law with the spiritual law. Okay. In fact, the spiritual, it's not even a law, it's a freedom. Freedom and law become one there at the spiritual level. Okay. The higher ethical law, okay, is discovered by the individual in his mind and will and psychic sense. It's individual. He discovers it within himself. Okay, not outside himself, not in the spiritual planes of consciousness, inside himself. It's mainly mental and will and psychic sense. Psychic sense, not the psychic itself. Huh? No. Psychic sense is that which gives you a feeling of sensitiveness and refinement. Okay, something ugly, you feel repulsed by it. This is the psychic sense. But the psychic coming forward is a totally different thing. Okay, and then extended to the race. So he's saying the individual first finds it himself, and then he can tell the others that this is what should be done. This is what we should do. There should be no killing. There should be no harming others. Okay, ahimsa and all these laws. He can tell the others. But he is only able to tell. Will they follow? Some may follow who are ready, and some will not follow who are ready. And there also there are grades. So I'm describing the grades. Okay, so but the supreme law, when you discover the spiritual truth in yourself, that can be extended to others because you have the power. You don't need to tell them by words, but you can simply, by your own force, you can convey it to others. That is the, in the synthesis, if you remember, he says that the teacher, the guru, teaches in three ways: teaching, example, and influence. Okay? The power of influence, and that's the most powerful thing. So if he has that power of influence, he can just convey it to others and even help them. Okay, so that's what he's saying. That is the truth. But if you tell the others, like the moral law, don't do this, don't do that, it may have an effect, but it may not have an effect also. You can't extend it to the others in a real sense. Whereas the supreme law, you have the power to do that without even words. You just sit in front of them. We've got so many examples now that they see Mother and Shiva for the first time and their whole life changes. There are people who go to the Samadhi and then feel something and that changes their whole life. So that is the real power. Extending to others in the spiritual is possible. I'm not saying that the person is immediately becomes spiritual, no, but the influence is possible to extend. Okay. In fact, very rarely does it happen that you completely become spiritual. You have an experience and you turn towards the spiritual path. Yeah. Yeah. So now I go to the next sentence.
Question?
Yeah, tell me. Someone is asking something?
Yeah, Rangada, the influence comes only after one has realized the psychic being, or it can come without
No, not the psychic being, but the self.
the self.
Yeah, the self. Not the psychic being, you may not be able to convince others because it's not a spiritual power. It's a power that purifies you, but it's not a power of extending to others. It's a vertical climb. You go to the higher level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, then you have the power. And that also, in the beginning, there is no power. But if you are at a higher level, then you can convey to others. In fact, in the first level of the spiritual plane, the higher mind, when you are in the self, there is no interest in the physical world at all. You are not even interested in conveying to others. You are interested only in your own development and your own purification and your own consciousness going up. So that's the thing. That, yes, it comes only at that level, not at the lower level. Then only, so Srimati is talking about the spiritual influence. He's saying, then only through a spiritual influence and not by the mental idea can it be extended to others. The spiritual influence is power, and that can come only after the self is realized. A moral law can be imposed as a rule or an ideal on numbers of men who have not attained that level of consciousness or that fineness of mind and will and psychic sense, in which it can become a reality to them and a living force. So there are two types of people. The moral law. Even those who are absolutely without any sense of moral law, okay, stealing, murdering, Okay, telling lies. All these people are not ready, but you can impose it on them through discipline. Okay, that's what the courts in India do. Whether you are capable of that or not, it is imposed on you. If you kill somebody, you will be punished. If you do something which is not in social interest, you will be punished. So that's the imposition. Shri Sangam of the imposition. But there are others who have developed a fineness of mind, as he's saying, and will and psychic sense, in which it can become a reality to them and a living force. What this man is saying, we should not harm anybody, we should not do something ugly, all these things, they can understand if they have a fineness, sattvic nature. The fineness of mind and will and psychic sense is the sattvic nature. Sattvic nature is still not spiritual, mind you. It is still in the three gunas. The three gunas are not spiritual. You have to become Trigunatita to become spiritual. You have to go beyond the three gunas. But the sattvic is the best in the physical world, naturally. The supreme law must be discovered by the individual in his spirit. So, and then only through a spiritual influence and not by the mental idea can it be extended to others. A moral law can be imposed, that we read just now. Okay, it can be imposed, and there are some who can accept and some who will not accept. Then also there is another. As an ideal, it can be revered. Okay, reverence is giving sufficient respect, and also maybe there can be a little bit of adoration also. There can be a love and an adoration. The word revere is a verb here, and it means revere without any need of practice. You can accept and say, yes, I understand that we should not harm anybody. And yet, when the opportunity comes, you do hurt people. Okay, so that can happen without any need of practice. Your mind says that yes, it's a good rule, but in actual practice, it doesn't work out. All these are cases, different cases. As a rule, it can be observed in its outsides, not the spirit, but the letter. Okay, you are faithful to the letter of the law and not the spirit of the law. As a rule, it can be observed in its outside, even if the inner sense is missed altogether. So in other words, even if you are not sensitive enough, sometimes you have to observe it. It can be observed. I won't tell a lie, but there is no actual refinement of character may not be there, but many people don't tell lies or they don't hurt others. Even without development, it is possible, depending on your nature. The supramental and spiritual life cannot be mechanized in this way. It cannot be imposed on others mechanically. They have to realize it themselves. The supramental and spiritual life cannot be mechanized in this way. It cannot be turned into a mental ideal or an external rule. The external rule is the imposition. You make a rule and everybody has to follow it. Normally they don't. That's what Sri is saying. You don't practice it. Okay? It can be turned into a mental rule. It has its own great lines. Which one? The spiritual. Okay? Its own great lines. But these must be made real. They must be the workings of an active power felt in the individual's consciousness. Felt, not thought. The moral law is thought in the mind. But this higher is felt in the individual consciousness. It becomes real to you. It's not a mental understanding. Okay? It becomes real. There's a big difference. And the transcriptions of an eternal truth, powerful to transform the mind, life and body. It will transform you. Your mind will become different, your life will become different, and your body also will become. There are changes in the body which you may not notice. Okay? And because it is thus real, effective, imperative, this is talking of the spiritual life. The generalization of the supramental consciousness and the spiritual life is the sole force, the only force that can lead to individual and collective perfection in Earth's highest creatures. So, Earth's highest creatures, those who are at the sattvic level. and those who are already in the spiritual planes of consciousness, in the higher mind onwards, upwards. So it can only be done by the spiritual consciousness. It cannot be done by preaching, teaching, morality, all these things. You can advise, but it's not, you're not able to transform them. The transformation can come only by the second level, at the higher levels of the second level. The intuitive mind and the overmind, you have the power. The higher mind, you may not have the power. Little power is there, but it's not normally used or even effective. No, nobody is interested so much in that. There are different grades, no? It's not that there's absolute laws of all these things. Only by our coming into contact, only by our coming into constant contact with the divine consciousness and its absolute truth can some form of the conscious divine, the dynamic aspect. Huh? Now note, when you say the dynamic aspect means you start living the truths that you have experienced in the spiritual planes of consciousness, level 2. So level 2 you can rise and it may not be dynamic. You will not be able to change your body-mind life. But if you are able to bring that down into your body-mind life, then it becomes dynamic. Okay, it becomes you are actually practicing the truths and the principles which you have experienced in the higher spiritual planes. You are able to practice them in the physical world. Take up our earth existence and transform its strife. Transform the strife. Strife is quarrel, disharmony, but it can transform that. Stumbling, sufferings, and falsities into an image of the supreme light, power, Ananda. All this can be absolutely done. The spiritual planes of consciousness may not be able to do that, but a supermental, the third level, will definitely be able to do that. It will be able to change all the disharmony and the falsities, and it can become an image of the supreme light, power, Ananda. Note the word image, okay? In the physical world, whatever the perfection reached, it's always only an image of what is there at the higher levels of consciousness. It may be wonderful, there may be harmony, there may be understanding, there may be knowledge, but it remains in the physical world. If it is there, even the supermental race, he is saying it's only an image. The image can be clear and the image can be fuzzy, okay? But it can be as clear as you want, but still it's an image only. It's a representation, okay? Very nice para, where he has made very clear distinction. In short, the moral law can be advised and enjoined to people, but it may not be able to have any effect. Those who are ready for the change, they will feel the need and they will try and practice it. But the practice is not always effective. Even in the spiritual planes of consciousness, where one has the power to transfer it to others, transfer your understanding to others, it may not always be effective in everybody. Okay, that's what it says. Now we can go to the next paragraph. So, I think Shilpa has not read.
Yes.
First. Yeah, Shilpa, you can read. Then Kiran can read next. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah,
Shall I read?
yeah, go ahead.
The culmination of the soul's constant touch with the Supreme is that of self-giving, which we call surrender to the divine. Will and emergence of the separated ego in the one who is all. A vast universality of soul and intense unity with all, the base and fixed condition of the supramental consciousness and spiritual life. In that universality and unity alone can we find the supreme law of the divine manifestation and the life of the embodied spirit. In that alone can we discover the supreme motion and right play of our individual nature. In that alone can all these lower discords resolve themselves into a victorious harmony of the true relations between manifested beings who are portions of the one Godhead and children of one universal mother.
Very small para, and he is saying that only the spiritual planes of consciousness has the power to change you. This moral plane of consciousness has no power to change you. 1 second, my computer is playing games with me. So the page is 204. So let me go to 204. It has gone to 224. 204. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so we have read the passage just now, the higher ethical law. Now we'll read. The culmination of the soul's constant touch with the Supreme is that self-giving, which we call surrender to the divine will and emergence of the separate ego in the one who is all. So the one who is all. The one can be transcendent, but when he is the all, he is the cosmic. Okay, obviously. And your ego disappears into the cosmic consciousness. The ego is that which makes you feel separate. So when you lose all sense of separateness, that's a cosmic consciousness. And the cosmic consciousness can have two aspects, as I said. You can feel yourself to be in everybody, or everybody is part of you. Okay, this is a apprehensive and comprehensive consciousness. The comprehensive consciousness, you feel that everything is within you. Okay? As Sri Aurobindo sonnet says, the largest stars in the universe are burning within me, because your aura which is around you has expanded itself into infinity, and everything is there inside you. Whereas the other one is you feel yourself to be in everybody. So that's it. Interesting. Well, many experiences are there of those who have experienced these things. There is one experience of Jiddu Krishnamurti. He is walking, and 100 meters ahead of him, there are some of his own people walking, and suddenly he feels that he is part of them, or they are part of him. Okay, so it can be that is a cosmic consciousness. So the culmination, they last even in the spiritual planes, when it is constantly in touch with the Supreme, is that self-giving, total surrender, which is called, to the divine will and emergence of the separated ego in the one who is all. In the one who is all is obviously the cosmic consciousness. A vast universality of soul. He is confirming what we are saying. A vast universality of soul. Universality of soul is a cosmic consciousness, level 2. And an intense unity with all. Okay, you feel everybody is part of you, or you are part of everybody else, is a base and fixed condition of the supramental consciousness and spiritual life. So if you want to go to level 3, it's absolutely essential first to get the cosmic consciousness and the disappearance of the ego. Okay? These are the two things that she says. Also, there's another thing. Mother says that you can go to the supramental consciousness only when you don't make a difference between my consciousness and that of Sri Aurobindo's. When you don't see them as separate. In other words, Purusha and Prakriti. If you are in even the overmind level of consciousness, you will see that both are true, but both are different. They are separate. But only in the supramental consciousness they become one. Okay? Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and spirit and matter become one in the supramental consciousness. That's why Mother says that if you make a distinction between me and Sri Aurobindo, you will not be able to go to the supramental consciousness. So that's very obvious. Okay, so the base and fixed condition of the supramental consciousness. That's essential first to get the cosmic consciousness. Without that, you can't go to this third level. In that universality and unity alone can we find the supreme law of the divine manifestation in the life of the embodied spirit Note the words carefully. In that universality and unity alone, okay, can we find the supreme law. The supreme law is the supramental, okay, third stage. The supreme, there can be a spiritual law which is not the supreme law of the divine manifestation in the life of the embodied spirit. In other words, the divine you have to see in the embodied spirit. Manifestation of life means in the physical world, level 1. And embodied spirit also is level 2. Okay? When you are in a spiritual consciousness, you are not embodied. Your consciousness is outside the body. So embodied spirit means in the physical world. You are in your consciousness is in the body, and yet you have a divine consciousness. That's possible only at the third level. That's what he's saying. Okay? The words indicate very clearly that what he's saying. In that universality and unity alone, universality suggests the cosmic consciousness, and unity suggests your absolute identification with the supreme transcendent. Unity. Alone can we find the supreme law of the divine manifestation in the life of the embodied spirit. In that alone, in the supramental, the level 3, in that alone can we discover the supreme motion and right play of our individual nature. Note the words. When you are in level 2, there is no motion. There is absolutely immutability. But if you go to the supramental plane, you can remain in your body, and yet all your movements and everything will be divine. And the right play of the individual nature. In the spiritual consciousness of level 2, your individual nature may continue with the old habits. Then it won't be the right play. Okay? The right play means all your actions, all your thoughts, all your emotions are absolutely spiritual. That can happen only when you reach the supramental. Very clear. Okay? So you have to make a distinction between all these things. It's not vague. There's nothing vague about all these. Very, very clear cut things. In that alone, the third time he is repeating, in that alone, can all these lower discords resolve themselves into a victorious harmony of the true relations between manifested beings who are portions of the one Godhead and children of one universal mother. So, only in the supramental race, when there are several people who have reached that level, which is representative of the supramental race, okay, not an individual, then there will be perfect harmony between them. They may have difference of opinion, they may have difference of action, they may have different natures, but there will be a perfect harmony. Again, we come back to that idea of the orchestra. 100 instruments, all playing different sounds and different things, and even notes, different notes also sometimes. Like we have in music, contre-chant. Some are singing high, some are singing low. Not in our Indian music, but in Western music, that contre-chant is very common. Okay? Harmony, it creates a harmony between them. Okay? This is possible only at the supramental level, he said. Okay? And another thing, note, all those then, you feel yourself all to be children of one universal mother. Okay? So, you are all part of the divine, manifested beings who are portion of one Godhead. In the Gita, these manifested beings who are portions of the one Godhead is given by the words Ansha Sanatana. You are eternally parts of the Supreme Soul. Individual soul is part of the Supreme Soul. Ansha Sanatana. That you realize, you can realize this truth even in the spiritual plane of consciousness, but you may not be able to bring it down to the body-mind life. That you can do only when you reach the supramental. Okay, so if we can read the next, we have time. We got 10 minutes, so yeah, Kiran can read. Kiran?
Rangada?
Yeah, tell me.
Can I read?
Can I ask?
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Can I ask?
Sunki is saying, yeah, tell me.
Yes. So who is the one? Is the psychic being who surrender?
No, not psychic. The psychic being surrenders, yes. The surrender is a lower being which is surrendered. Correct. Even the body mind life, even the mind can surrender. Even the vital can surrender. Even the body can surrender. In fact, in mother's case, towards the end of her life, her whole body was surrendering to the divine. Each cell was saying, only your will, O Lord. Okay? So that surrender can be at so many levels. Okay? The psyche being surrendering is wonderful, but the mind may not agree. The vital will certainly not agree easily. The vital is the most difficult. It's always rebelling. Okay, it's a rebel. It doesn't want to obey. It doesn't see the truth easily. Huh? So, Sunki, I want to ask you a question. This, your border when you are speaking is blue, but when you are not speaking, it is orange or sepia color. How come? Is it
Oh, I don't know. No, I didn't do any.
Oh, I think I know because you have put up a hand which is that sepia color.
Ah, yeah. I did that.
Yeah,
Yes, I did it this time. The raising hands
that's right.
for question.
No, so your question is
Then
clear?
Rangadak?
Yeah, tell me.
Yes. One more. Then can you say our ego also surrender? Can
Yes,
surrender? Ego.
yes.
Mhm.
Srimdu mentions that. The ego says, I know that I am, rather your consciousness says that ego is wrong. So I cancel the ego. That's a surrender.
Ah,
Because,
then who is the last? Who
because,
is the last one?
pardon?
Who is the last one to surrender? I mean,
The
but
body,
who is, what is the most difficult entity to surrender? Can I say that way?
keeping surrender is very difficult. In the normal human being, almost impossible. Even the vital sometimes doesn't surrender. But when the mind surrenders and the vital doesn't surrender, there is progress. But still, the vital is impure. But if the vital surrenders, your progress can be very fast. Okay? But that's difficult. The vital is very, very difficult, not easy.
Then it's a psychic thing.
Pardon? Yeah, if the
It's a
psychic is there, the vital can.
thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Psychic.
Yeah.
So psychic being leads the certain whole being. Can you
Yes.
say that way?
Yeah. If your psychic is come in the front, okay, and your nature is psychicized, then the body, the vital, and partly even the body, the mind and the vital do surrender when the psychic is there. The surrender is part of the psychic transformation. Okay, so let's read. Kiran,
Yes.
Yes.
all conduct and action.
All conduct and action are part of the movement of a power, a force infinite and divine in its origin and secret sense and will, even though the forms of it we see seem inconscient or ignorant. Material, vital, mental, finite, which is working to bring out progressively something of the divine, and infinite in the obscurity of the individual and collective nature. This power is leading towards the light, but still through the ignorance. It leads man first through his needs and desires. It guides him next through enlarged needs and desires, modified and enlightened by a mental and moral ideal. It is preparing to lead him to a spiritual realization that overrides these things and yet fulfills and reconciles them in all that is divinely true in their spirit and purpose. It transforms the needs and desires into a divine will and ananda. It transforms the mental and moral aspiration into powers of truth and perfection that are beyond them. It substitutes for the divided straining of the individual nature, for the passion and strife of the separate ego, the calm, profound, harmonious, and happy law of the universalized person within us. The central being, the spirit that is a portion of the Supreme Spirit. This true person in us, because it is universal, does not seek its separate gratification, but only asks in its outward expression in nature, its growth to its real stature, the expression of its inner divine self, that transcendent spiritual power and presence within it, which is one with all and in sympathy with each thing and creature and with all the collective personalities and powers of the divine existence. And yet it transcends them and is not bound by the egoism of any creator or collectivity or limited by the ignorant controls of their lower nature. This is the high realization in front of all our seeking and striving, and it gives the sure promise of perfect reconciliation and transmutation of all the elements of our nature. A pure, total, flawless action is possible only when it is effected and we have reached the height of this secret Godhead within us.
Quite a big para. We will not go to already. We got only 3-4 minutes left. So I can do one thing. I can read out the summary so that we get the gist. Because next Monday only, next Tuesday, we can redo this one. But just now, we can. Oh, I have not got the summary yet, so I can't read the summary. I have to do the summary. I'm doing slowly one by one. The later chapters, there are summary, but this I'm still doing. So I'm sorry. But what Surendra is saying here is very interesting. So we'll have to look at it carefully next time. So next time we are going to note down just once again. Yeah. So next time we have to read within us is the last. So page 205, and we have to redo all conduct and action. So Sunki has to note down all conduct and action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make one.
Yeah. So if there are any questions, we have got 3 minutes, so we can, if any questions are there, we can try to for a clarification. But if there's nothing, we can.
I want to know something. I want to know vital in a very simplest definition of vital.
Energy, okay?
Okay.
Motion, power. That is vital. Energy. It's pure energy. It only wants to go on acting, but there is no understanding in the vital. There is no knowledge. There is no. It's only pure action. Okay, that is vital.
And vital is guided by, derived means he is impressed by how vital works.
At our level, the mind tries to guide the vital, but in the animal, there is no guidance at all. The animal lives purely by its own energy. What the energy tells it to do, it does. Okay, but in man, because he has got a mind, the mind tries to guide the vital, but it is not possible. And those who are very developed, the psychic tries to guide the mind as well as the vital.
Another
So
one
it-
question.
Yes.
When we say the mind surrenders, it's the ego of the mind which surrenders, no?
Yeah.
So same with ego of the vital and ego, physical ego, everyone surrenders, it's the ego which surrenders, no?
Yes, you can say that. Yeah, you can say that. Because the sense of separateness goes away. Huh? Yeah.
I was thinking, Rangada, can it be put that whatever I think I am, that's surrender.
That's right.
I feel that I am this, and then I surrender, no, I'm not this. I have to surrender that to the divine. Then I feel maybe my mind, whatever I feel that I am, actually I'm not that. So I surrender, that surrenders.
Yeah.
It just struck me when we were discussing.
And the surrender can come only when you are already, you realize that you're not the body mind, right? Otherwise, what are you going to surrender?
Yeah.
You try to surrender, even in ignorance, we try to surrender. But we don't get the divine guidance very easily. No? So depending on how much development is there, then It is there in a graded way. Right.
So the real money surrender we can say is only when we come in contact with the self.
Perfect surrender, yes.
Not
Perfect
psychic.
Yeah. The psychic also, this perfect psychic, this psychic surrender is, who is surrendering? Your mind, they are the ego. So the psychic is trying to do that and influencing greatly. But the psychic can purify you to a lot of extent. But you may not necessarily get the knowledge. For knowledge, you have to go outside your body mind life. Your psychic is in the body, na? The psychic is in the body mind life. So it's not outside like the self. The self is outside, higher up. But the psychic is within you. It's an embodied spirit. Okay. So psychic definitely makes you more refined, more sensitive, more truth oriented. But it is only trying to make the vital surrender and the mind also surrender. First, the mind can surrender very easily, and the vital next. Very difficult, but it can. And in the body finally has a, in mother's case, she says that the mind has disappeared. There's no mind. In other words, it becomes silent, and the vital also has become silent. Okay, there is no vital feelings at all. But everything is, that doesn't mean to say there is no emotion, huh? Because she is living in the consciousness of the highest. There is knowledge, emotion, everything is there. Even the body was surrendered. Every cell in her body is saying, your will, O Lord. Sakati will, whatever you want. So that's fantastic. That is, only an avatar can do that. Okay, we stop here today. Okay. So see you tomorrow for Life Divine.
Au revoir, Ramada.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangat.
Thank you.